In the spirit of Kujichagulia, or self-determination, the Delta College Department of Ethnic Studies proudly presents Profiles in Equity and Excellence, a virtual presentation series. This speaker series will highlight Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are professionals advancing equity, racial, and social justice efforts in various contexts. All students, faculty, staff, admin, and community are welcome. In this session, we are so honored to feature Dr. Adrienne S. Lawson.
I know we have people entering our virtual space. Welcome this afternoon. We are going to get started promptly here. Welcome to Equity and Excellence, our last portion of our series for this academic year. And we are honored and blessed to have Dr. Adrienne Lawson with us today. I've known her for years, and so we're in for a treat. We have a condensed schedule today, so we will be meeting for about 30 minutes. But Adrienne, Dr. Lawson, is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Practitioner and educator with over 30 years of experience working in a variety of academic environments. She is currently at Pride Industries as of October 2020 as the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. What a wonderful title, so proud. She oversees the Affirmative Action Equal Employment Opportunity Compliance programs. And prior to her tenure, she served for 6 years as Senior Director for Health, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at UC Davis. She also had worked for many years at Sacramento State. So she brings a wealth of assets, experience, knowledge, activism to our campus community. And so I will turn it over to her so that she can share with us her story in advocating and creating equitable spaces, restorative justice spaces, and creating communities that are oriented towards serving the needs of our diverse population. So thank you, Dr. Lawson, and you now have the floor.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. Thank you, Dr. William, for inviting me today. My name is Adrienne Lawson. I use pronouns she, her, and them. I consider myself a transformational leader, and I go by Adriana. And here's my contact information. And just in case you would like to follow up with me or ask me any questions, my email address is astservant@gmail.com. And I guess I'll get started and go ahead. I only have 30 minutes with you and I'll get started. If you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand so we don't have to wait to the end because I might run out of time. And so, Dr. William, if you can help me with anything in the chat or the handout. Alrighty. Not an echo, is it? Everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I think you're good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I have a lot of years in academia, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with learning objectives, but they are non-traditional learning objectives. 1, appreciate your journey. 2, value the space you're in that's making a difference. 3, respect and engage the leaders that are trusting you. 4, teach, coach, mentor, and sponsor. Be true to yourself, learn critical self-reflection, take action to grow, and stay the course. Do not ever give up on your dreams and your goals. One thing about me being a transformational leader, and that's my background with my doctorate degree, and I'll talk about that a little bit, is that not only am I transforming spaces and organizations, but I myself am transforming as well as I learn and grow. And I do embrace critical self-reflection. This is my mom, Alice Walton, and my journey starts with her. She's a single mother. I'm a first-generation college student, and my passion was always to make a difference in the world. I didn't know how I was going to do that. I didn't have a plan. Like, I dream of being a DEI practitioner. Probably didn't even know the word diversity at that time. But all I know is I'm growing up in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in Inglewood, and I would see a lot of things going on in my neighborhood, a lot of disparities and inequities, and I just thought it should be something more to it than that. And I know how it's going to make a difference, but I always want to make a difference in my community. And so this is where my journey began. My mom was not a college graduate. She went to a technical school and received a certificate as an accountant. So she was an accountant for 30 years with the state of California. So she had a professional job, and she told me to go to college. She couldn't tell me how to get there, how to fill out an application or any of that. She just said, Adrienne, go to college. And so I want to make her proud. My mom passed away at the age of 58 years old. And so she was able to see me graduate from San Jose State with my bachelor's degree. So I'm just proud that she was able to witness that. So as my journey continue, I consider San Jose State to actually be my training ground. Any of you all know of San Jose State, or know anybody who graduated or from San Jose or any of that? Well, San Jose State was when I first was able to understand what it meant to be a student. And it was very hard for me. And I'll go into why it was very difficult for me a little later on in the presentation. But I did graduate from San Jose State with a BA in sociology and a minor in criminology. One thing about when I was working at San Jose State, I had a lot of roommate issues. And so I was down one day, I was a student assistant in the Department of Cashier's office. And my boss, who was my mentor, I didn't know she was my mentor at the time, but she taught me everything I know working as a student assistant. She said, Adrienne, you pick up really fast. And so why don't you apply for a regular staff position? And I didn't know what that meant. And so she helped me with that, gave me a good recommendation. And so I was able to obtain a position as a clerical assistant in the Department of Science at San Jose State University, working 20 hours a week. And I received my first California paycheck. It was this, paper, it was a green check, and I was like, wow, this is a lot of money, for 20 hours a week. And so I was able to get my own apartment and still get financial aid. And so I worked from 8 to 12 noon on campus. And then I was able to go to school from 1 to 5 or whenever I had my classes. And so I worked in the School of Science. And then after that, I started working in academic faculty affairs. And so this is when I learned about faculty and faculty positions and about RTP, which is retention, recruitment, and tenure. I didn't know what tenure was. And so I learned all about faculty working in faculty affairs at San Jose State University, not knowing this is going to mean something later. So that's why I say wherever you are now is really meaningful. You may not know it, but it's going to mean something. And that's what it was for me working at San Jose State. And then I transferred to, well, actually, okay, how did this go? So after I finished San Jose State, I moved back to Sacramento, and I wanted a job working at the university because I really liked working as a staff person in San Jose. And so I kept applying to Sacramento State, and finally I received an administrative position at Sacramento State, and I worked in the Department of Social Work. And so I actually worked in social work for 12 years, but my first couple of years of working in the Department of Social Work, faculty, would come to me and they would ask, hey, Adrienne, you thought about getting your master's in social work. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be a social worker. And so I would have students to come to me and, encourage me to get my master's degree. Students, was encouraging me, and I said, oh no, I barely made it out of San Jose State. I couldn't do a graduate program. And so then I met another faculty member, Dr. Forrest Davis, which I'm sure Dr. William know who that is. She worked with him in the Department of Education at Sacramento State University. And every time he would see me, he would say, Adrienne, you need to get in the multicultural education department, get your master's degree. And I'm like, no, Dr. Davis, I can't do it. I barely graduated from San Jose State. And he says, no, you could do it. You could do it, And I was like, okay. So finally, he talked me into it. And so I applied and I got in the graduate program on a conditional basis, which means I didn't meet all the requirements to be in a master's program. But now at this point in my life, I am a young adult. I think I was about 26 years old, and I had two small children, and I was married as well. And then I was working full time. So I got in the program. It was a part-time 3-year program where I went to school 1 day a week. And then I was able to, bring my kids to school sometimes, but I made it through. I just want to let you know this too. Now, when I was at San Jose State, this was a while ago. So when I graduated from San Jose State, my GPA was 1.9. Let that marinate. Back then, you can actually graduate and go on with your classes with a D. Now you have to have a C or better, right? To pass the class. But then you can actually pass a class with a D. So if I graduated with a 1.9, I barely made it. And so that's why I didn't think I would be successful in a graduate program. But then I come to realize that I was a good writer, and most of my master's work was just writing. And so I was able to articulate myself on paper. And so I did graduate before anybody in my class. I finished my thesis early, and I helped some of my colleagues as well finish their thesis. I was able to get through RTP, IRB, because I was part of, Department of Social Work, and I knew about graduate courses. And so even working in the Department of Social Work, I worked with students, I worked with faculty, I knew what IRB was, I knew what a thesis project entailed. And so even though I was helping students in the department working full time, and working alongside faculty, I didn't realize how that was going to help me with my own thesis project. So like I said, whatever you're doing, whatever space you're in, where you're working, you're wondering why I'm doing this doesn't relate to anything I'm doing. That actually helped me to be very successful in my graduate program. So I graduated as valedictorian of my class. I was in the newspaper as super mom. That was interesting, And so it was just a blessing. I just knew that my experience working in social work helped me with my graduate program. And then after that, I went on to get my doctorate degree, and it was kind of the same situation. Now this was Dr. Carlos Navarez. He would see me passing by the Department of Education, and he would say, Adriana, you got to get in the EDD program. And I'm like, no, man, I can't do it. I'm happy I got my master's. I did good. He's like, no, you have to do it. You're a leader, you're a transformational leader. You're doing a lot on Sacramento State campus. I see what you're doing here. And actually at that time, I started teaching. When I got my master's degree, I started teaching in the Department of Ethnic Studies. A staff person actually asked me to teach a class. And I said, I can't teach a college course. I couldn't do that. And this lady, her name's Ann Thomas. She worked at Sac State. I think she's retired now. And she says, of course you can do it, Adrienne. She says, because of all you've gone through, she says, you love students. You're a true educator and you can do this. And just start off by teaching freshman seminar. And so I said, okay, I'll try it. And so, oh my goodness, I love freshman seminar because I had such a hard time, going through my undergraduate program. I just didn't have anybody at San Jose State that really poured into me as a mentor. And so when I went to Sac State, I had so many mentors in my life that helped me. And so I valued mentorship and I valued information. I didn't know really the power of information. And so I wanted to pour into students everything that I didn't get, like how to utilize the library. I mean, really, the library. Librarians are there to actually help you. And I used to be ashamed. Like, I don't want to ask them anything. They're going to think I'm stupid, that I'm dumb, I don't know. Well, that's why you're a student, to learn, to grow. And so I took my students to the library to have a library tour. I told them my story. I believe in study groups. Study groups are powerful. In my syllabus, it was a requirement that students get in a study group. It was a requirement because there's a lot of studies that suggest if you're in a study group, you actually do better. And so that's what happened with my students. I began teaching freshman seminar for several years without a doctorate degree. I just had a master's and I taught freshman seminar. And so finally, fast forward to did get in the doctorate program. Initially, I didn't get in actually. So this is where the story comes full circle. Initially, I didn't get in the program. So I wrote my letter, you have to write something to get in the program. And I didn't get in. So I said, okay, I guess it's not meant to be. And then I received a call from Dr. Navarez while I was at work, because I was working on campus. At this time, I'm working in research administration. And I've created trainings and different things I'm doing. And so he calls me on the phone. He says, hey, Adrienne, we have an extra spot, and we want you to be in the program. So I was like, what? He's like, sure. Can you come to orientation tonight? And I'm like, yes, I'm dressed professionally always, dressed professionally at work. And so I went to the orientation and I met my colleagues. This was the first cohort of the EDD program at Sacramento State University. And so I met my colleagues who I was going to be studying with. And then I met a faculty member, and she looked at me dead in my eye and she says, I'm going to be your mentor. And I was like, what? She says, yes, you need me. It's because of me that you're in this program. And I was like, okay. So she says, I want, every time you write a paper, I want you to give me the paper so I can look at it. And so then she, I gave her the paper and she looked at it and she would say, make these changes. This is what you do. So I did that. And then finally, I think about the third paper she looked at, she says, okay, I identified your problem. And I was like, what problem do I have? She says, have you ever been diagnosed with a learning disability? And I was like, no, back then when I was in school in the 80s, no one said anything to me. I don't know anything about a IPE. Is that what it's called? You get some kind of form you fill out, they fill out for you saying that you have a learning disability and you go to the learning center. I don't know if any of you all have had that, or, you yourself, your family, your friends, had an IEP. Well, that wasn't me. And so I was like, no. And she says, okay, I see how you write now. So you do everything backwards. And that's true even today as a leader, that is the way I think. So I'm a visionary leader. I'm the Senior Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. And when my CEO tells me something that he wants done, I can see it. I can see it from A to Z. And then when I work with committees, they can't see the whole picture of how this is going to be done, but I can. And I always work backwards. And so that's the way I was writing. And so she, told me what to do, an outline and to read this, that, or whatever. She gave me the strategy. I'm not going to go into all of that. And so she says, okay, I want you to write your next paper and follow my instructions on your outline. And so I did. And she says, oh, you got it. This is it. And I was like, okay, great. And so she says, you don't need me anymore. I'm like, no, I need you. Don't leave me. She's like, no, you got it. And so she passed away not long after that. And so I do believe in teaching people how to be successful and not doing it for them. She never did it for me. She taught me. And so one thing about having a learning disability is something that you have to learn to deal with. And you learn how to be successful. You learn what works for you, what the strategy is. And so now that I know and have identified what my learning disability is, I have a strategy to work that out. And so I did graduate, of course, with my degree, my EDD in 2011. So if you do think you may have a learning disability, you can be tested because there's a lot of services that I missed out on. And so that really taught me a lot. And I identified a learning disability in my son, who has the exact same one as I do. And then I also had identified learning disabilities with some of my family members, even my cousin. His name is Kevin, and he stutters. And I stutter sometimes too, but he has it really bad. And I told him, I said, you know what, you should actually see if you can get services for that. And he graduated from UC Davis. And he told me that was the best thing that I could have told him as an adult, because some people, go throughout life and they don't know why they struggle in certain areas because they've never been diagnosed as having a disability. And the statistics is this. Out of 4 people, 1 out of 4 people has a disability in the world. 1 out of 4, and it's some type of disability, whether it's severe, it could be physical, or it could be neurodivergent. I'm sorry, let me go back here. So my dissertation, African-American female faculty at a CSU, recruitment and retention. So this was my passion because as a faculty member, kind of going back to that, I was able to attend conferences. So kind of my first induction into going to conferences. So I will go to conferences with faculty with the California Faculty Association. So my first conference I went to down in Los Angeles was all about equity. And so this was kind of my first introduction into diversity, equity, inclusion, which I would call DEI. But it wasn't diversity, it was just equity. And they were, fighting, like there should be more African-American faculty, there should be more Latino faculty, Indian faculty, Native Indigenous people. And I'm like, yeah, And so I got into this. And so I started doing research with a faculty member at Sac State, and I joined his equity coalition as a part-time faculty member. And that's how I came to this. I always had dreamed to be a faculty member because a lot of faculty members have been my mentors and my sponsors. And when I say sponsor, I mean that they spoke on my behalf. They said, oh, Adrienne can lead this meeting. Oh, Adrienne should be able to go to this conference. And so when you have a senior person or a person with maybe what you call clout or influence speaking on your behalf, that's called a sponsor. So I had many mentors and sponsors in my life. And I do that now. I'm a mentor and I'm a sponsor because that's my way of paying it forward, giving back. So then I was able to actually apply my dissertation to my first job as a doctor, Adrienne, with the EDD. a doctorate degree at Oregon Health and Science University as the diversity manager for faculty recruitment and retention. So this was a new position. They actually hired me to recruit diverse faculty. And that's what I did. I had a credit card, that was said OHSU. I thought it was something, boy, and I traveled all over the world, and it had always been my dream to be a recruiter, because I thought traveling all over the world, meeting a lot of people, and I love people. And so it's easy for me to talk to folks. And so that's what I did at Oregon Health and Science University. And then I was recruited to UC Davis as a Senior Director for Culture, Climate, and Community Engagement. And then I got a promotion, as Dr. Williams said, as the Senior Director for Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And this was more so to go into the space of UC Davis Health, which is the health system. So this is academic medicine. I work with MDs and PhDs on implicit bias training. I created my own training. So I did a lot of implicit bias training to faculty, also to staff. And I mentored a lot of Latino and Black students who were medical students. I also did a lot of recruiting there as well. And then, I like this quote. Confucius said, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. And that's where I am now at Pride Industries. Pride Industries' mission is to create employment for people with disabilities. Full circle, right? So today I'm sitting on a search committee for senior vice president. Initially, I thought I wanted to be a faculty member, which I was part-time, but I realized that transformational leadership for me is making systemic changes. And so that's what I've been able to do, not just at OHSU and UC Davis, but even here at Pride Industries. I'm always, hey, I have the secret sauce to make sure you get diverse candidates in here at the highest level, because if you get them at the highest level, then it will just trickle down, right? And so that's what I do at Pride Industries. Of course, I work with employee resource groups, real talk dialogues. So I do a lot of D&I work, and I use the collective impact model. And I use the collective impact model because my goal is to permeate DEI throughout our entire company, which is Pride Industries is at 15 different locations throughout the United States, including DC and Hawaii. And so I talk to everybody, in the company, and the CEO told me after my first year at Pride Industries, he's like, wow, you exceeded our expectations. It's like everybody knows you. But that's how I get my work done. I believe in interconnectedness, and the framework I use, again, is the collective impact model. And so I just want to thank Pride Industries for always giving me an opportunity just to be my authentic self, to be able to do this type of work, to work in the community and do what I need to do. Also like to acknowledge UC Davis, the campus, as well as the health system, for allowing me to do my dissertation, to actually apply it. Sometimes, you put your thesis and your dissertation on the shelf and you have a totally different job, but I was actually able to apply what I learned and add to that, as well as at OHSU, Sac State. I keep all, and at San Jose State University. I want to thank all my mentors, the colleagues, and my friends, and Dr. Lisa William as well. One thing I also want to stress to you all is keep your colleagues and your friends close to you. Never forget about them and the people who helped you along the way. It's important. I mean, I still have colleagues that I call upon at UC Davis. Some are friends now, even at OHSU. I have my own business as well. I have a consulting business called It's a Blessing Consulting, where I do DEI work and leadership. And my colleague at OHSU, my former colleague at OHSU, we actually collaborate together. in my business. I have a bunch of friends at Sac State. I still sit on advisory committees at Sac State, at San Jose State. The very first person who helped me get a job, I'm still in contact with her. So it's important to keep those connections. So you never know when you all can, oh, that's my alarm. I have to stop now. But anyway, that's it. That's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I did let folks know I have a meeting at 1:30 that I might be just a few minutes late. So I do want to just open it up for about 2 minutes. If any of you have comments, questions for me, I'm happy to answer. Or
Thank
anybody?
you so much, Dr. Lawson. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for all of this inspiration. And
Yes.
we hate that we know and appreciate that you have to cut it short. So I'm going to ask folks, hang out for a second. And because I want to ask you something related to the quote she shared, even after she leaves. Are there any questions right now? You're going to have to type like the wind, or you can just say it out loud. If you don't want to share it in the chat, you can just ask your question out loud.
It's not so much of a question, but you are a huge inspiration. To hear you say you went from a 1.9 to graduating as valedictorian, that's incredible. And just thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much for being in this space, and congratulations in advance to the degrees that you're going to get, the impact you're going to make in the world. The world needs good people who's going to transform these institutions. I admire millennials, young people who are making a difference. My kids are my inspiration. My daughter is 29 and my son is 30, and they inspire me. I learn from them. You know, I want to make sure that I stay relevant in today's world. We have 4 generations working in the workplace right now, and it's important to honor our past and embrace our future. That's my theme for the year. Thank you.
Thank you for your engagement in Profiles in Equity and Excellence. We hope to see you back in fall 2023. May peace be with you all.